So we're both passionate about philosophy and Stoicism and how we can integrate it in our life and also show others how we can. It's not only for us, both of us we have the communication bug, and we like to share with other people.
A little bit about you. I would just like to know more about what you do.
What do I do? Okay, well, I've been doing a management training for about 20 years. And I've integrated Aristotle's method of persuasion into my seminars. And over the years, I saw how useful that method was of Aristotle, the art of persuasion. And I began to see that it was like a way of life, that one can build one's life around these principles of Aristotle. So on that, I built my own method, the Alkistis Method, and I'm just sharing that mainly through the internet right now. Yeah.
It's really, it's amazing that you've built a whole method around it. So yeah, I'm definitely going to be following your work.
Thank you.
And I think it's true. When I heard you say self-leadership,
yes,
I found that really very interesting.
Isn't it? It's very important, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, self-leadership, because like you're a Stoic, so you know also about Socrates and his teachings. And one of the things that he believed in was that we can't lead others if we can't lead ourselves, you know. And it began to get to me that all these companies, they pay for leadership training, and they weren't really always looking at what about self-leadership? How do I manage my anger, my hostility, my resentment, my ego? So self-leadership, I think it's the most important thing for not only managers, for everybody to learn.
Yes, that's very true. So you're a great example to me as well.
Yeah, well, it's the source. I return to the source. I know that Stoicism is growing in popularity. And it's really the source here in Greece, the teachings of Socrates and Aristotle especially. And you know, every time I go on holiday, I pass through Nicopolis, where Epictetus started his school. I mean, here in Greece, it's all alive. I went to the Stoa with Donald Robertson here, where Zenon started the Stoa in the ancient Agora, which is like the marketplace. Right outside my house is the Lyceum of Aristotle, the first, if you like, the first academy in Europe, the first high school, the first, and it's Aristotle's academy. I pass by every single day. I mean, it's all alive here in Greece. And I'm hoping also that the Stoicon, we're discussing having a Stoicon or Stoicon X here in Greece. And that's going to be very exciting, I think, for many people to come and see the real places and just be inspired by the landscape too. Because, you know, when it's different to study psychology in New York and to study it here in Greece under the Parthenon. It's just a different vibe. I have to say the word. It's a different vibe.
Please tell me, how did you discover Stoic ideas and Stoicism?
Stoicism. Okay, so I'll have to go back to my childhood actually, because I've been fortunate enough to have been born Greek, and you know, discussion of Greek philosophy was always in my house, especially by my father. You know, you grow up with Greek mythology and also some introduction to philosophy, especially like my father, he was very well read. And he quoted the philosophers. At 15 years old, his village was burned by the Germans, and he went into the mountains to be in the resistance. And he was put in prison, he was tortured, and later on we had a dictatorship, and again he was sent to prison. We had to go to Canada because of the political turmoil here. And his career went very well in Canada as a bank manager. And generally speaking, he always referred to his difficult past and how you mustn't, get down and allow things to, to destroy your confidence and your courage. Let's just say I had a living example of a Stoic father. That was my first experience with Stoicism and philosophy. But later on, I like to read by myself about Socrates, Aristotle, Plato. One thing leads to another. When you're interested in philosophy, you eventually find Marcus Aurelius, you find Seneca, you find Epictetus. You stumble upon them as you discover through reading mainly. Most of all, I was very lucky because of my father who taught courage through his being, and who taught Stoicism and just reservedness and living simply without being a consumer. I was taught these values, very young, not to be depending my happiness on other things. Other kids would buy things, their parents would buy them, all the super gadgets and clothes and Barbie dolls. And my father says, you don't need many dolls. You can have one doll and be happy with that. You just create the relationship with your doll, or, you have to wake up early and clean the yard and, mow the lawn and clean the snow. So it was a lot about discipline. It wasn't about, he didn't bring us up to be like my sister. I'm speaking about my sister as well. We were kind of brought up in a Stoic way, and the more I read about Stoicism, the more I realize that I already was brought up in this way.
Do you feel that there's much of an interest in Greece in both Stoic philosophy and some of the other origins in Socrates?
Although there's a buzzing philosophy scene here, it tends to be in the Greek language or very academic. Like you have the academic circles. Of course, there's a lot of people who have intellectual salons or classes. But because I grew up in Canada, I'm a Greek from Canada, I have very much this desire to build the bridge between all of this knowledge that's alive here and bring it out and have people come in and have these discussions over the internet like we're having now. So, it all goes back to Socrates, though, I have to say. For me, Stoicism is, in a way, Socratism. I don't know if that makes sense, but
yes, I think that sounds right. And I think in some circles that are popularizing Stoicism, that may not be understood or really.
Yes, they forget the root sometimes. They don't mention the root, and that makes me a little sad. And maybe that's my role, is to remind that this is like a footnote to what Socrates said, and not what he said, because his life is a living example, okay? The fact that he gave his life for his values and his ideals, and not being afraid of death, and just the way he lived his life, I think that's the main. I just like to remind of the roots, of the source.
Yeah.
That's all. Yeah.
I think it's valuable.
Yeah.
Can we acknowledge if any Stoic ideas or practices, or please feel free to go back to Socrates as well, other practical philosophy do you use in your life? And would you be able to name any examples of how that helps you?
Okay, I have many actually, because this is my way of life. I try to make it my way of life. So, for example, I especially like the view from above. The view from above. It's very important for me. Especially with handling anger or stress or anxiety. This is a daily practice for me, the view from above, the view from a distance. And so much that I've also created the guided meditations to help my clients with it too, because not everybody's able to just think themselves at a distance. So the guided meditations that I record are first to help myself create that distance, and then to help my clients as well who enjoy. So that's one practice. The amor fati I love, because in this way I don't have any regrets about my past. Everything, because I've been through a very, adventurous life, because I've always tried many things out, trying to, learn many things and try various roles out. And the amor fati just helps me look back into my life and accept everything that happened, that it was the right thing to happen, even if it didn't seem that way. So I'm loving myself in the past. And also amor fati helps me deal with it in the way that Ryan Holiday, in his book, The Obstacle is the Way, in the way that he says it, it's helping me again deal with any obstacles I have on my path. In my business, in my practice here as a coach or as a trainer or with the online, there's always obstacles, okay? You try dealing with the Greek public service. There's a lot of bureaucracy, and this amor fati, this sense of the obstacle is the way, it adds this new dimension, and I'm almost embracing the obstacles, and I'm saying, this is my life, this is my path, and this specific obstacle was made for me, kind of thing, and I just have to figure it out. And so I'm kind of loving the obstacles right now. At least I'm practicing it. It's not always happening, it's about self-correcting your thoughts. It's about questioning your thoughts. Another Stoic practice, and the practice of Socrates, is to question my thoughts all the time. Say, is that thought true, Alkistis? Is it useful? Is it kind? So these three questions, which are also in my own method, this method of Socrates, is it true? Is it useful? Is it kind? This self-questioning practice all the time, it's liberating. I've seen how many misconceptions I've had, how much I've dramatized things, how much I've sometimes exaggerated things, taken things too personally. So it's helping me just be more mentally resilient. So many practices. What else? There's journaling. I've always done journaling since a young age. And then I discovered videos, and I started video journaling. And this was like the beginning of my YouTube channel around 2005. I was one of the first YouTubers. And, and I had a lot of practice with the YouTube. What I did was, with YouTube, I used it as a place of self-reflection. So Alkistis TV on YouTube, I would just upload videos almost daily, and then look at those videos and say, look at that body language. Is that aligned? Not critically looking at myself, but just questioning, like, who is Alkistis? Trying on different roles. And so it's like video journaling, just taking journaling to the next level, because obviously in Stoicism, journaling is a very important practice. The practice of before you go to sleep also, which was actually started, by the Pythagoreans. This idea of before you go to sleep, to reflect on your day, the things you did well, the things you could do better. All these practices and many more I do on a regular basis.
Well, if you're willing to share, how this philosophy or these approaches, have they helped you overcome any significant barrier or problem that you faced? You talked about the obstacles, the way. Would you be willing to share a little bit more about an experience where you used these principles to help you get through difficulty?
There are so many, because for me it's a constant. It's not about the big obstacles in life. For me, it's about the small, everyday obstacles that one needs to get the hang of and overcome. So I could say that for me, Stoicism and philosophy, it's a practice, an everyday practice. Of course, I've had, big heartbreaks in my life after a divorce in the past, or say a business that didn't do so well. Like I had a retreat center on a Greek island for 7 years with big tents and no electricity. We lived on an island for 7 years with no electricity, believe it or not. And but that was just half the year. So half the year, 6 months, I lived on this Greek island, and the other 6 months I lived in Germany. So what happened was, after 7 years, this project was just not financially, it wasn't doing well. Maybe we were too idealist when we started it off. This was many years ago. This was about 15 years ago I closed it down. But overcoming this disappointment with my retreat center and seeing it stoically, seeing it from a different perspective, and amor fati, and seeing how the whole experience enriched me. At the same time, I see it that Stoicism has helped me to see all the benefits that I got from trying to build this retreat center, and now all this energy has simply transformed and has gone into my work with groups here in Athens or through the internet, or I've just recycled the energy and repurposed it. And I couldn't have done that with all this without the Stoic philosophy inside me. Just keep cultivating that everything is for the best, that this is my way, this is my path.